Following breaking news right now, chilling details released in court documents tonight about the murders of a young brother and sister in Montgomery County. The children's mother admitting to police she stabbed her 7-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter.
On November 17, 2016, Jason Worley woke up in the small town of Darlington, Indiana, to the sound of his mother-in-law screaming. To his horror, he discovered that his wife, Brandi Worley, had murdered their 2 children. After Brandi's infidelity caused her marriage to crumble, her husband, Jason, turned to Reddit for support. "I'm having a hard time coping with my wife having cheated on me with our neighbor." He briefly explained the entire situation and asked for advice on what to do. Working more than 60 hours a week, software developer Jason was struggling under the weight of his workload. There was tension in the seemingly happy household, and things weren't as they looked. Stress was beginning to take a toll on Jason's family relationships in May 2015. It came to his attention that Brandi had secured her phone with a password. She said it was so he wouldn't find out about a Father's Day present until he inquired. After covering her tracks for a week, she finally admitted that their contractor neighbor had built a home office as a surprise. Although it seemed like a sweet gesture, Brandi's behavior started to raise red flags. She became concerned about her conduct when, every time Jason entered the room, she hurriedly put her phone away. Brandi smiled at her texts and was often messaging. Jason asked, but she insisted that it was just some random person. Jason was concerned because he sensed something was wrong. He checked her phone, which she had left open before getting in the shower. She was messaging their neighbor, the contractor, and he was disappointed to see that the conversations had nothing to do with the home office she had brought up. Jason said he didn't want to think his wife might harm him in a Reddit post. He attempted to put it out of his mind as a sick joke, even though he didn't locate any more damning texts. After some time had passed, Jason found out that Brandi had been secretly erasing her texts, which explained their complete disappearance. Even though the neighbor had pledged to set up shop in their house, they began spending more time there. Uneasy, Jason decided to use his wife's phone's GPS to track her whereabouts. Sometimes she would disable her location settings herself. Jason covered his tracks by installing what seemed like antivirus software on her phone, anti-theft software, to allay his worries. Through this, he was able to monitor her phone from his device and save a copy of her texts on his computer. Jason understood it was a major violation of privacy, but he felt he had to do it to collect the evidence he needed. The day after that, Jason's mom offered to watch their 2 children. She got a day to herself after Brandi dropped them off. From his office, Jason saw that she had attempted to meet up with a neighbor, but he was preoccupied with other matters. Unexpectedly, Brandi began arranging a get-together for herself, Jason, the neighbor, his fiancée, and her kid. A group of close friends, including Brandi and the neighbor's girlfriend, planned to attend a concert together one day. At the same time, Jason and the neighbor remained at home to watch the children. For whatever reason, Jason used the installed program to go through his wife's communications. To his horror, he found out that they were planning to meet up for sexually explicit activities and that the texts had become very explicit. After declaring their love to one another, Brandi and the neighbor caused Jason pain. Jason, who was becoming more and more agitated, read their declaration of love, but he kept his feelings in check. Neighbor told Brandi that she is now his girlfriend, to which she responded by saying that she always has been. Following the women's return, Jason questioned them. However, Brandi rejected all accusations, and the neighbor's girlfriend was equally taken aback. Jason had proof that demonstrated Brandi's and the neighbor's intimate texting relationship, despite her denial. When confronted, Brandi confessed to texting, but she insisted this was their first serious incident. It was obvious that they were planning to have sex, even though Jason couldn't say for sure. As he finally broke the news to Brandi, Jason expressed his frustration with the marriage. Brandi took a protective posture as she felt her world fall apart. She said she sought solace from the neighbor because she was lonely and blamed Jason's stressful job hours. She threatened Jason, saying he would never see their children again if they split because he couldn't care for them. Many years have passed since Jason's attempt at suicide while he was a high school student. Brandi hinted that she could use it as leverage to get custody of them. In 2016, Brandi instilled in Jason the fear of leaving their children. They resolved to take a break from each other for a while to figure out what to do next after several arguments. Jason remained at their residence, while Brandi accompanied the children to her mother's residence. But things worsened. When Jason paid a visit to his in-laws, Brandi, who was spending time alone with the kids, informed them that Daddy was angry with her. This caused much distress and bewilderment. Jason stayed with Brandi after realizing she would do anything to keep the kids if he sought a divorce. Attempting to avoid thinking about it, he buried the affair deep in his thoughts. Now that Brandi felt like she had achieved success, she made him crawl to keep her happy. Even though Brandi said the affair was over, he still couldn't let go of the dread of disappointing her. On Friday, October 28, 2016, Jason posted on Reddit asking for advice on what to do about Brandi and her cheating. Even though he discovered his wife's infidelity more than a year ago, he chose to remain in the relationship for the sake of their children, he revealed. Specifically, Jason went into detail about how he found out his wife was cheating on him with their neighbor. The affair continued even after he confronted her, and he couldn't stop thinking about how he may be causing her pain. When Jason discovered Brandi sending images to the neighbor months later, his concerns were confirmed. She insisted they were indeed for him, but that she had sent them the wrong way and rejected the accusation. Jason decided to believe her and go on, despite his emotions. Sharing his tale and seeking assistance on Reddit in October 2016, he expressed frequent concerns regarding the scenario. He wondered if remaining with Brandi was the correct choice. Jason admits that he has been struggling to function at work recently due to a lack of sleep and elevated stress levels brought on by this predicament. He's beginning to wonder if it was a mistake to persuade Brandi to stay with the kids. Still, he's worried that she'll turn vengeful and turn the kids against him if he files for divorce after winning her back. The fact that he was still seeing Brandi astonished many Redditors. The consensus was that he should consult an attorney and dissolve the marriage immediately. It will be tough for Brandi to prevent Jason from visiting the children because her proven adultery might help him acquire custody of them. On the other hand, Jason's selflessness in providing for his children stunned many Redditors. They were astounded that he remained by her side, pleaded with her to remain, and even apologized to the neighbor. Having children as a reason to stay in a marriage isn't always a good idea. They recommended ending the unhealthy connection. For children, nothing is worse than growing up in a broken home. Jason mustered up the will to go through with the divorce despite the conflicting opinions. He was so desperate for a way out. According to a November 1st update by Jason and Hell on Reddit, Jason was consulting with an attorney. They made it public that he and his children would be ending their relationship next week. Jason and Hell stopped participating in the discussion after that update. On November 15th, he informed Brandi he wanted a divorce and would defend the children. It caught Brandi off guard since she had assumed she had complete control over her husband. He finally stopped avoiding her for years and finally stood up to her. After her affair came to light, she started to see that he had a decent shot at obtaining custody. That was too much for Brandi to bear. She would never give up her children to him. A choice that Brandi could never take back was taken on November 16th. The whole family went to Charlie's dancing recital that night. Brandi mentioned that she was heading to Walmart to get supplies for one of Tyler's school projects when they returned home, and Jason was busy making supper for the kids. On the other hand, upon her return, she concealed a combat knife in her son's room after purchasing it. Jason slept in the basement on an inflatable mattress after dinner instead of on the couch with the kids. Brandi seized the bedroom. A hush fell over the house as the Worleys drifted off to sleep. Brandi roused her kid from his room in the middle of the night and informed him that they were going to Charlie's room for a sleepover. Along the way, she snatched the knife that had been stashed earlier. As soon as Tyler walked into the room, his mother stabbed him in the neck. Charlie, his sister, was soundly sleeping in her bed. When Charlie awoke, she wanted to know what was going on, but Brandi urged her to return to sleep. Shortly after that, Brandi also stabbed Charlie. Attempting suicide with the same knife, Brandi watched as her 2 children bled to death on the floor. Her injuries and the effects of the Benadryl she had allegedly taken led her to call her mother and admit her guilt. In a state of panic, Brandi's mom said she would be there as quickly as possible. Subsequently, a terrifyingly composed Brandi dialed 911 to admit that she had murdered her 2 children and stabbed herself. She told the cops that her husband wanted out of the marriage and the kids. She disclosed that Jason was sound asleep in the basement beneath the house.
Montgomery County 911, where's your emergency?
203 South Madison Street,
In what town?
Darlington.
Hey, what's going on there?
I just stabbed myself and I killed my 2 children.
You stabbed yourself and killed your 2 children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what's your name?
Brandi Worley.
Brandi what?
Worley?
Okay. How do you spell your last name?
Worley.
And where are the children at?
In my daughter's room on the floor.
In your daughter's room on the floor? Okay. And what caused you to do this today?
My husband wanted a divorce and wanted to take my kid. I won't let him have my kid.
After Jason's mother-in-law came and saw Brandi and the children covered in blood, he heard screaming but had no idea what had occurred. When Jason arrived at the scene, he saw his mother-in-law sobbing and wailing over the bodies. Jason made out his wife on the couch and she gave him a furtive glance before saying, "Now you can't take the kids from me." Despite the arrival of emergency personnel at 4:30 in the morning, Tyler and Charlie were unfortunately not saved.
Following breaking news right now, chilling details released in court documents tonight about the murders of a young brother and sister in Montgomery County. The children's mother admitting to police she stabbed her 7-year-old son and 3-year-old daughter.
And Brandi Worley was taken to Methodist Hospital with a stab wound of her own. Late this evening, I spoke with the Montgomery County Sheriff. He tells me she remains at the hospital tonight. Upon Worley's release, she will come here to the county jail.
Despite the arrival of emergency personnel at 4:30 in the morning, Tyler and Charlie, unfortunately, passed away. Brandi, their mother, had murdered them. Brandi made a speedy recovery after being transported to the hospital for her wounds, which she had caused herself.
Montgomery County woman accused of killing her 2 young children. Brandi Worley pleaded not guilty today.
2 felony murder charges were brought against her after she left the hospital, and she was arrested. Initially, she pleaded not guilty, aiming to claim legal insanity. Then, she altered her plea to guilty.
Well, Brandi Worley now faces 2 counts of murder, 1 for each of the children. We're also going over these court documents and learning more about that fateful Thursday morning.
In March 2018, she received a 120-year jail term for killing her 2 children. During the sentencing, the judge said that sometimes there's no explanation for the darkness in this world that enters our thoughts and emotions. Brandi remains jailed in the Indiana Women's Prison near Indianapolis. The act of a mother killing her children is truly horrifying. It serves as a stark reminder of the profound darkness that resides within human beings, sometimes manifesting in unimaginable deeds. The tragic case of Brandi Worley stands as a stark example of the unfathomable depths of despair capable of driving individuals to perpetrate such atrocious acts.